Okay, guys, we'll be ready in just a minute. Why don't both of you try talking so they can tell us how our audio levels seem?
Good morning, everyone. I just finished uploading an episode and I'm very tired, but I'm ready to do another podcast.
Hi, this is Adam. Just wanted to point out that in a private discussion, we all discussed possible episode titles, and I came up with the same one May decided she was already going to use.
Yeah, we should point out.
I'm sorry.
AR pops up and goes, I have the perfect episode title.
I'm not wrong.
No, gives the title.
May came up with it first.
Gives the title. I'm like, that's perfect. May's like, no, that's mine. I came up with it first for my show. You can't have it.
I guess great minds think alike.
And then we thought up some of the worst episode titles ever, and are still working on it.
Yeah, that's probably what we're going to end up using.
Yes.
One of the worst ones.
Yes. Or I'll just use the same episode title as May and ignore it.
Ooh.
What about what's one of the DDR sequels like?
Max.
An extra, Max on the end. So Dun Revolution Max.
Okay,
Yeah.
no one's complaining about the audio level, so I think we can probably get
Dun Revolution Supernova.
Yeah, that Dan Revolution, bigger than Lost in Translation one. Okay.
Dan Revolution Extreme.
Okay, let's grab the 30 seconds starting now. Okay, that should be good. You both ready to go?
Yep.
Okay. Welcome to the With the Will podcast. We're here to inform and hopefully entertain a little bit while talking about Digimon. I'm Marc. I run With the Will.
I'm AR Pulver, Digimon System Restore, which is going to be really active this month.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I'm May from Lost in Translation Mon,
who just tried to one-up us by putting up her own podcast literally 10 seconds before we started.
No, I just wanted to get out of the way before I want to do other stuff today that isn't podcast related, since I did so much Digimon and podcast related stuff yesterday and the entire week before. I was just making blog posts, so want to do some fun things.
How dare you? It's almost like you were working on that podcast before you started on this one.
I know. I'm a cheater.
Everyone missed the excitement of the pre-show title card where the audio's all muted. People listening live get to listen to Bolero. When I put on my headset after walking away for a second, and it's just machine gun fire of typing as hard and fast as possible from May.
Basically, yeah.
So, you guys do anything Digimon related this week?
As in this upcoming week or last week?
Last week.
Well, every day I made a blog post with one of my favorite bits from each of the movies from chapter 1 to chapter 5.
I think I read 1, 2, and somehow I missed 3 and 4 and read 5, I think.
Yeah, and then that was, I don't know, it was good to keep me excited, or get me excited for Try, but I still ended on chapter 5, which I'm not a huge fan of.
Well, we're not here to talk about 5, we're here to talk about 6.
Yay!
Meanwhile, I watched part 5 again on Thursday.
I'm sorry.
But I actually liked it a lot better. I got into the emotional side of it a lot more than I expected to. I also put up a blog post, kind of a preview of part 6 last Monday.
Cool.
Just because I'm not going to make enough content on it this month, so I needed one more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's time to go to part 6. So I guess first off, what do we think of it over? And we should probably mention, if you haven't seen it yet, go away. Because
could be, yeah. There's gonna be spoilers.
Yeah.
Can you put a special spoiler card on the screen or something, just so people know?
I considered doing it. The issue is we've said spoilers at the top of the show, and if someone pops in the middle, they're gonna hear a spoiler before they end up seeing the card anyway. So.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
So basically, if you haven't seen it yet, go away, or else you'll find out Scooby-Doo dies.
Go watch one of our archived episodes.
Yes. Listen to last week when people got upset with me and May for talking about asses, which we're gonna do again this time.
Oh
We
yes.
have to.
Yes. Yes.
It's plot related this time.
Yes, that was the last minute message we got from May first before anything else was, we need to talk about asses again.
Yeah, well, it's a good Ordine-ary though.
Okay,
We'll get there.
okay, so yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't. We
yeah.
can talk about it. Maybe we shouldn't lead off with it.
Yes.
Mm.
So okay, so what do we think overall? Like thumbs up, thumbs down. Where do we stand? I liked it.
It was fine. It was a successful ending. They landed the plane successfully.
Yes.
I think they sacrificed a couple details. I mean, it maybe wasn't like all that essential for concluding the story. I think I would have appreciated them. Like, it would have made like the payoff more rewarding for some of the stuff we saw beforehand, but they landed the plane successfully, and that's about what I can say about this one.
They didn't crash,
Yeah.
and the wings were still more or less intact. The
Mhm.
jets might have had a couple of birds in them, but they landed. It was
But
in the
the bird-
Hudson, but they landed.
But the birds flew in previous movies.
Okay, I think this is too much metaphor.
Metaphors are a really easy way to describe. I have a couple different metaphors if we want to go in a different direction here.
Pass. So, where did, in the sense of where you guys were hoping, did it end up above or below the line? Because, like, May, for example, since around part 5 specifically, it feels like you've been spinning more negative.
Yeah, chapter 5, like, I mean, it's fine if people like chapter 5. I'm not going to tell them if they're wrong. That's just an opinion. But, like, I did not enjoy chapter 5 particularly. Maybe it'll change when I have to rewatch it when I watch the dub. But for the most part, like, I did not enjoy chapter 5. So I was kind of not looking forward to chapter 6 as much. But overall, like, chapter 6, I feel was better than chapter 4 and chapter 5.
Okay.
I kind of went going in knowing that all of the stuff they were going to have to resolve was going to make things a little busy and going to make things a little rushed, and they'd have so much to do. I wasn't really expecting it to be a fantastic ending, and I don't think it really was, so this was sort of on par with what I expected. I think it's going to end up sort of towards the bottom for me, kind of because it was given so much to do, and it was really sloppy about some of the dead weight it ended up having to drop. It's probably not fair, but that's where I'm at right now.
See, I think it was fantastic because it was willing to drop some dead weight. A lot of times finales very much get caught up in, we have to explain every single thing, and there are certain things that they should have explained that they didn't, but there were various bits of dead weight that they were willing to drop, which maybe not the best thing overall, was probably best in the context of doing a finale.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote about this last week that I wanted them to favor going for hitting the right emotional notes instead of trying to tie up everything so neatly. But at the same time, the fact that some of the stuff was only tied up as loose as they could have gotten away with, it does sort of tampered my expectations going in, and those expectations weren't necessarily lifted.
Yeah. Well, like, let's talk about one of the dropped ones that a lot of people seem to bring up, which is Alphamon simply disappearing. I'm not insanely bothered by it because he never seemed to be used as an actual character. He was just a really strong grunt figure.
Yeah, with Alphamon, like, it wasn't really necessary that he was in there. It was just kind of strange that he wasn't.
Basically.
Like, yeah.
But I'm also
like,
not...
I can't really think of anything he could have necessarily added to the movie, but at the same time, if you weren't going to use him, you probably should have resolved him earlier.
You could have just blown him up in part 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I also...
that would have changed nothing.
But I also don't mind that he wasn't in 6, if only because minus sticking him in there to have him there, I'm not sure he had any part to play minus, oh look, another grunt.
Yeah, I didn't miss him. Let's put it that way. I guess he was only contracted for odd-numbered movies.
Yes.
Like, it's just a recurring character.
Yes. So I guess to talk about something big, and since this was also something that came up in prior episodes, were you happy with not necessarily the resolution, but how they ended up dealing with how much Hikari we got and her ongoing elements? Because that was one that you had a lot of concern about when Part 5 ended, because it didn't quite seem over yet.
Yeah, I was really satisfied with Hikari. I think she got a lot of attention. You know, she had a proper arc. She kind of fell into despair for, you know, allowing all of this to happen, and what happened with Taiichi turned it around. She kind of dove within. She kind of found the key to saving everything their way. Like, she was the catalyst to making these things happen. And the way she turned and kind of snapped at characters that she needed to snap at, that was really great to see.
Yeah.
Like, I like when Hikari gets a little upset and feisty over with other characters, especially allies.
Yeah, and I really liked the that scene just as they're about to fight and she's about to evolve Tailmon to Holydramon, where she says, "Look, Taiichi, I don't agree with what you're doing, and I'll never forgive you, but I'll still fight with you." And I
that was good. Well, I think the high point of that scene for me was when she starts to get upset about it, and Taiichi basically tells her to never change. I really like that scene because it doesn't. It's a slight non-glossing over of something that did kind of need to be pointed out, which is, to a degree, she is the little sister character, and that kind of only comes up when we're joking about it to a degree.
Well, and you look at the way Taiichi kind of shut her out when she was raising her issues in movie 2. You know, he just kind of, you know, she's talking about how he has all these unresolved issues, and he's just like, shut up, go to bed. Now he's like, yeah, I understand, we disagree here, I respect that. Like, he's not completely shutting her down.
See, I kind of saw it as slightly different. I kind of saw it more as he's growing up and changing into something more mature and seeing the world the way it really is, and maybe he'd rather she didn't. That she could stay sort of innocent about it. When his eyes have already been opened to the world, and he just would rather not. He'd rather she not have to deal with it. Yeah,
but I mean, she did ultimately have to. Like, if she had a problem with it, she could have sat that out.
Yeah, obviously.
Which would have been a disaster. I mean, she kind of came to the conclusion that his solution was just as unethical as whatever Homeostasis and Yggdrasil were doing, but at the same time, she respects that he didn't come to this decision lightly.
Well, I also...
Like, he really put a lot of thought into this decision. It was kind of a group decision, so it's like, I don't agree here, but this needs to happen. I respect that. Let's just do it, and we'll argue about it later.
Yeah, and since you brought it up, I really did like how it handled the different sides, because we have Yggdrasil, who's, for lack of a better phrase, evil. We have Mysterious Man working for him, and we have him effectively call out Hackmon, and Hackmon doesn't respond, and Hackmon sort of just sits there silently and takes it because he doesn't really know what to say.
I don't think he necessarily disagrees.
No.
He's just...
Well, later on he kind of points out that he doesn't, when the kids point out about the reboot, and he basically says he doesn't agree with it. It's just a matter of what else is the choice.
Yeah, and it's... Hackmon has an unexpected character arc in a way. Like, he's just sort of... He just sort of shows up for the info dump in movies 4 and 5, and now there's actually sort of a... He's starting to see things their way.
Well, I think... I think he always did. I think it's a matter of... The plan was put into motion years ago to make it so they didn't have to deal with the problem as much as they needed to. And it's hit the point now where there are only 1 or 2 choices left, and those aren't necessarily the preferred choices, but they see those as the only choices left. And I like that maybe Hackmon goes, and maybe it's worth the risk to try something else, even if it means in the end everyone loses if we're wrong.
And he also, they sort of bring him over and go, like, okay, you have an alternative, this could work, let's give this a try.
Yeah.
Also, you know, that the different factions here of Homeostasis, Yggdrasil, and the Chosen Children, I think is kind of one of the keys going on with the whole title of Try to begin with.
It is. Motonaga has mentioned it offhand a few times in regards to the different sides.
Okay.
But he also doesn't seem willing to say that this is the primary one, because there isn't really a primary one.
I think there's a few different ones, but... That's one of the key ones.
But then like we had I like how once again we're getting moments out of context from the trailers. Like before we get into Yamato's character development, the line from him in the trailer that everyone went, does this mean they're not chosen children anymore? And it turns out the movie was kind of saying the opposite, where they had been chosen, but now they have to choose what they're going to do, which kind of ties into the title itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of really like that.
Yeah.
So going on to Yamato, how do we feel about his character development, where it effectively ties back into part 1, which I thought worked really well.
Yeah, that was... I mean, once you got into part 5, you could see where they were going to go with Yamato. Yeah. But like, you could see, it's like, okay, all of the stuff that in parts 1 through 4, some of which I wasn't really buying into in parts 2 and 3, but you can see now that, okay, this was all going to tie together back to the issues they had in part 1. Now it's starting to get to him as well. He's starting to see that he needs to be the leader and start to shape up too, and he's starting to see things from Taichi's perspective.
Yeah.
And Yamato did a really good job handling everybody. Like, that first scene with Sora was wonderful.
Yeah.
The way he heard her out and listened. You know, you contrast that with the way he was just clueless in movie 4. He's stepping up.
I'd say he's still kind of clueless. It was more that Sora told him why it had to be him, to a degree.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah.
And then you have Gabumon rambling about Japanese card games.
Yeah, another awkward translation moment there.
So yeah, I'd say that you could use poker or something when it's dubbed in English. But
yeah, they'll find something really easy to dub that in English that makes you wonder what the fuss was about.
And I feel like we've gotten it a few times. I love then that they spin the camera around and the other Digimon are just leaning up against the glass.
That's so cute. I love that. Yeah. I love that entire scene.
But everyone also turns their head and starts doing the fake whistling, except Agumon, who just doesn't move at all.
I love Agumon. He's so dark. Yeah. He's such a good friend. I love him.
Yeah. Is anyone shocked by how he welcomed Taichi back? It felt complete. It was completely in character to me. It was kind of the, of course you're back. You're late. Type moment.
And when you think about it, he was kind of late, considering how quickly in the movie he ended up going back.
Yeah.
He really waited for the right scene to make it.
I actually really like that, because one of my, not necessarily a concern, but one thing that I kind of wondered if they would do is if he was going to just be there in the first half hour.
Yeah. Oh, no, I agree. It's definitely a good idea for them to have some time without Taichi. It's just that spacing was really kind of funny.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, I understand why dramatically he had to throw him the goggles like that. I'm not sure he could have thrown them that far. Like, the goggles sort of just, like, fly into his chest, like they've been, like, whipped at him. But then
everything involving the Taichi-Yamato relationship, they are going to do with as much flourish as possible.
Yeah, I know, but, like...
They're going to sell that.
But we get, like, the launch at the chest flourish, and then the next shot is showing how far apart they are. And it's like, I'm pretty sure Yamato would have had to chuck them through the air to make that distance.
Wasn't nearly as dramatic as the scene in Crosswords with Taiki and Zenshiro.
Yeah. So, Yamato was good. Hikari was good. Those were the two that really felt like they needed stuff to happen here. I still kind of say that if we'd gotten nothing more with Hikari, I would have still sort of been happy with it, but I do think there was some resolution that was needed.
No, I needed something for Hikari.
Yeah. I don't completely disagree. I kind of expected that more to be based around Taichi's return than it ended up being.
Mm-hmm. And I'm still going to push back in saying that we did need more for Maki, but we can get that in that when we go into the more negative side of things.
We'll get into her. I'm kind of shocked how spot on I was about that from part 5, though.
I'm annoyed how spot on you were about that.
Yeah, I didn't know.
I'm mad how spot on you were.
Shall we just go into Maki now before we get into some of the others?
I like the idea of doing the positive stuff first. Because I have more positives and a lot of them are.
Okay, let's talk about Daigo's goodbye.
Okay.
I really liked this scene.
Yeah.
I like when I was talking about it with Jay on our podcast. Like he did not like this scene, and I was like, look, it's fine. He was like, no, it's contrived. I'm like, no, it is a heartwarming scene,
Yeah.
and Daigo's words, like,
I think you're both
great.
right. Like it was a totally contrived scene, and we'll get into that when we do negatives. But if we're gonna talk about Daigo just for what it is, it's a very natural death. Like it got to a point in that scene where you knew what was gonna happen.
It was just it was a matter of how and when.
Yeah, well, even by that point, once you see that he's all bloodied up, and once you see what the plan was, you knew exactly how that was gonna.
No, exactly. But I meant in the sense of would we actually find out he dies before the countdown's over? Is what I meant.
Oh, okay.
Because like I would argue he didn't get killed by the explosion. I think he was dead before it happened.
Could be.
Yeah.
It's kind of academic at that point.
Well, but that's what I mean though. But that also is kind of the point of it. Almost subverts Mysterious Man's point, which was that he expected them to fight over it, and him proving that there was nothing worth saving.
Yeah.
Well, one was severely bloodied, and one was for some reason unscathed. I'm not sure how it happened, considering
I want to say that Daigo just wrapped Taiichi up and protected him.
Yeah,
like
that was well. Remember, that's what was happening when they vanished. He was diving to grab him.
Yeah.
Like that is our last vision of them in part 5. Is he's grabbing him basically.
Well, Daigo, more like Deadgo.
Daigo.
But yeah,
Dying go.
But yeah.
And how shocked are we all to see Ryo?
Are we gonna just pretend that was Rio?
No.
It's a reference.
No, but I've seen enough people argue that it's him. I think we kind of have to bring it up. It was
I thought it was him.
I can understand thinking it was him until you actually check the silhouette, in which case it is pretty obviously Jenai.
Oh no, it is.
No, I thought you were talking about when we saw the.
No, we can talk about that argument later.
Yeah, well that gets into whether or not I was 3 for 3 on my predictions, but
look, guys, I legitimately for some reason forgot that a good Jenai would exist. So my thought process for the other silhouette in the tube went, is that JP from Frontier? Is that Rio? Is that Willis? Until I saw the rat tail.
I don't even know how to respond to that one, May.
My response to that was, that's kind of important. They probably should have called that out.
Yeah.
Like, there's just a silhouette in the tube.
Oddly,
they probably should have identified him.
Well,
considering that's a character that another character has been impersonating the entire series.
Now,
so which one is it?
What I think happened.
Which Jenai?
What I think happened was we should have gotten like one line from Taiichi. I think the reason why we got the others pointed out but not Jenai was the others were pointed out by the life sign indicators. Is Jenai actually like a living guy with life signs? I mean, he's a digital being, so I don't know if like he has life signs, does he?
What happened when he got zapped to the real world? Did they go to the hospital and suddenly get the doctors there got really startled?
I feel like they...
Got 2 hearts.
You know what? I was actually going to make a Doctor Who joke there. I feel like they were putting him back on the table and clarifying that wasn't Jenai, but they were leaving it for someone else to decide what they want to do with it. Rather than pointing it out. And then he just
gets up and walks away.
Yeah. I'll still be honest, there was one specific moment later on when Mysterious Man was like just pontificating. I really expected just like Jenai to just pop in and wham him in the face.
Oh, absolutely.
There was one specific moment where it just really, really felt like it was gonna happen.
Yeah, it's just like you're just waiting for it.
Yeah.
Like, okay. That's how you're gonna play this.
So at the very least, I think we can safely say that Mysterious Man is not a corrupted Jenai.
Yeah,
at least in the sense of normal Jenai is still out there. It's not another personality's taken over Jenai or something like that. The guy that we know is out there, and we would hopefully see him if there's ever more. Wink, wink.
Is he eucalyptus? Or is he
Yeah.
one? Like, is he one of the
Yeah,
other Jedi's?
maybe he's like he's the French one we never saw.
I think it's Eucalyptus.
You know, I know what
Like
they
how shifty.
I know what they should call him. Jeff. Yeah. So because we kind of glossed over the big part of that scene, which is the saving of the O2 kids.
I said I was going to save the negatives for later.
Hey, that's a positive. The O2 kids were competent. That's why they were smashed
Yeah.
into a
Oh yeah,
puddle.
They knew about it.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
somehow got
Glad
in.
they got credit. Glad they got credit. I'm glad they did
They
that.
somehow got into the digital world and were gonna try to stop it before it happened, and they got stomped for that.
While the
Yeah.
Adventure Kids were just kind of there going, "Huh, what's happening?"
To be fair, they didn't even
There's
know.
there's a lot of implications behind that, because that suggests that the 02 kids have been the more active ones trying to preserve the digital world, while the older kids were kind of
I don't
past that
I
stuff.
don't necessarily agree with that, because we
Well,
don't know
Miyako's there.
we don't know
He's
we don't know the context of what happened. It may literally be they got sucked back in and found out the plan.
It could be, but it opens that possibility up. Like, you can kind of use some imagination there to interpret that however you want, and that is a valid interpretation. So if you want to give the 02 kid some credit, there you go.
It's a valid interpretation with air quotes for a reason we'll get into later. Air quotes. It's hard to make air quotes when you can't see me, which is why I said air
Yes.
quotes.
This is an audio format.
Yes, that's why I said it. The problem is
Until the episode where we put video.
the problem.
video
The problem,
of
of
all
course,
of us
is
up instead of title cards.
yes. The issue, of course, is when I said it, I actually made the motion with my hands and then was staring at my hands, wondering why I did it.
Audio.
Yes. Do you feel like the mysterious man, really enjoyed writing him this time?
I
A
feel
little
like they've
too
had
much.
more and more fun every movie. Like, he just
Yeah.
seems a little bit more wacky each movie. Like, in Chapter
He
5,
was-
he was just absolutely crazy.
Really wild, this one. Yeah.
In Chapter 2, he doesn't talk. In Chapter 3, he does his little mocking thing at the very end. In Chapter 4, he's kind of nuts. In Chapter 5, he's batshit crazy, we just don't see him that much. And then Chapter 6, he's dancing around on the rooftops, giggling to himself.
Mhm.
Like, he's great in Chapter 6.
I did like that he had this conversation with Hackmon.
Yeah, that was
a really good scene.
Yeah.
Like, just to get those other two pieces talking, because everyone's interacting with the Chosen, like, just having Mysterious Man and Hackmon having this conversation, a surprisingly civil conversation for those two, but yeah, that was good to see.
Yeah, and I kind of liked. It's one of the few times Hackmon in Try has been very serious. We got him even mocking the Mysterious Man a little bit, pointing out that his plan wasn't quite as far along as he would have everyone else believe, because he still has to use his disguise.
Yeah, and even having that reference to you still have to use your disguise was kind of nice.
Yeah.
Like, just that reinforcement of why he does have to have that form in the real world.
Which probably should have been the very first clue, the first solid clue that, no, this isn't Jedi, because we've seen that he doesn't have to do that. So, we'll be back to the Mysterious Man because of some other things that happened, but I guess one thing to go over is there were lots of little touches to continuity regarding basically the entire franchise to a degree. And I feel like I want to talk about the weirdest one first. He hasn't been in any of them to the point that there's been no mention of him, and everyone kind of went, it's, a salaryman type working character. Taiichi and Hikari's dad randomly shows up in part 6.
And I liked that.
I did too, but did it feel like they were animating him almost like he was from Adventure? Like, it kind of was the more cartoony head shape and everything?
Look, this scene in general the one that you're talking about, reminds me a lot of when they're all being hostages in the convention center.
Yeah, I got that impression too. That was a fun illusion.
I don't think the illusion was on purpose. I think that's just how those scenes are done, because they have those. can't remember the phrase.
At the same time, it evokes that sort of memory.
Yeah.
Like, they sort of have that mental, okay, it's like just reminds you of that scene, and it's like, okay, there's something similar going on here.
See, I guess I didn't quite think that because watching too many Godzilla movies, that's always where they sort of go when there's an issue. So I sort of saw it just as the everyone get off the streets type scene. But it just seemed weird to have him, and he's voiced, and it was just very, like, it was almost a yank you out of the film moment because he hasn't been around at all, and then he's just there.
I'm just, let's make a note of what you just said there, that he has, he's a character from the original series that had not been around at all.
No mention at all. I mean, to be fair.
That had not been mentioned at all and not been in the entirety of Tri, had not come up at all, and then suddenly he appears, he's animated, he's voiced, and it felt like there was absolutely effortless. Like, it was just really easy to throw him in there like that.
See,
let's put a pin on that conversation and come back to that later.
Yeah, let's come back to it later minus one thing. There's a very good chance that we're wrong and someone's going to tell us, oh, they mentioned Dad was at work in part 1 or something like that. But we mean he wasn't really mentioned as relevant. Okay, so...
I just want to... We'll come back to that later.
Yeah.
Because there's a point we're going to make.
Okay. Now, I guess we should talk about... We get to see more of Takeru's writing and a bit more... Not necessarily that different from part 1, but it felt more special for some reason.
It was a similar... It was that having Takeru write that letter was just another kind of evocative moment. It was kind of just a callback to him reflecting on his past experiences. It was a good transition to Tri's epilogue just because it sort of evokes memories of the 02 epilogue.
Yeah, and then we get stuff like... Then we get Taiichi taking classes a bit more seriously and going to... I don't remember the term now. Yeah, prep school. Because he's, he's found... It looks like he's found his path thanks to Daigo, and that's alluding to different stuff. And then Yamato's trying, figure out what he's gonna do. Maybe I'll go to space. And it's just like that was both amazing and stupid at the same time.
It was a little blunt for me, but hey, I will take the points.
I feel like he's just doing it to one up Taichi. Like, well, if Taichi's not what he wants to do, I guess I'll go to space.
That's exactly what it was. That's exactly what I took it as. It was.
I just think that was just completely blunt and out of nowhere.
It was,
and even though yes, that was the context of it. And
that's also the character where he's kind of blunt, and he sort of responds in ways that border on. I'm trying to think of the term I want to use. Not bullying, but like his responses are often just kind of being a jerk ass.
Mm-hmm. Whatever, whatever. That was my 10% prediction. I'm taking it.
My favorite part of that scene, though, is I'm just looking. I'm 99% like Sora's cut her hair. Why is no? I know they're showing to show the passage of time, but is no one going to mention that her hair is completely different? And then Takeru mentions it.
Takeru mentions it.
And then Yamato's like, "What?"
Love that.
Yeah, that was great.
Like, oh, you did?
Love it so much.
And let's talk about the best continuity nod ever, which I've already seen people complain about. Because everyone expected a little bit more. I love the way they used Wizardmon.
Yeah, I was really...
I expected... This is what I expected.
I think that they would try to do more with him than they should have, but I'm happy that what they did. It was nice, it was subdued, It felt really metaphorical. It symbolizes Hikari's drive to not have to sacrifice something.
I feel like what most people expected was roughly what we got with 2 changes. I think they expected it would be his ghost floating around, and that he would talk. I think there's something much more interesting about that we don't really know what the fuck happened there.
I think one thing that I also was worried about was that he was going to have somehow be a factor in them undoing the reboot and getting their memories back. Like he was just going to wave his wand and make that happen. I'm glad they did.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of was. You're right. That kind of did seem like an expectation people had. I kind of like that it was literally just... Not only do we not know if it was him, it was clearly like the last bit of strength he had left was literally just showing her the way, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I will say it's shockingly similar to how they brought back Kami and Nail in Dragon Ball Super, where literally you just get a grayed out echo of them pushing the characters along.
It was it was nice and reserved.
Yes.
They could have tried to blow that up more, but they just kept it simple like that.
Now, I feel like, though, one thing I do have to say, wouldn't that have been so much better if they hadn't clued us into it with the poster?
Yeah, probably.
Like that scene would have been 100 times better if we had no clue about it. The problem is we knew he was going to show up somehow because that fucking hat. They didn't put the hat there for no reason.
Oh, yeah.
I really feel like it would have been so much better if we just hadn't seen it, and it was literally just Hikari passes out, sleep, whatever, and then all of a sudden we just see Wizardmon walking by. That would have been so much better.
At the same time, you'll be amazed of how many people watch this that don't dissect the poster.
True.
They don't even really look
No,
at
you're
the
not
poster,
you're
or
not
they don't pay much attention.
You're not wrong because we have seen people in the last day go, "Holy shit, his hat was on the poster."
Yeah.
Yeah. But it would have been nice to have had no clue, not the most minimal clue of all to even look at.
Well, that's what we were saying about the teases, if they were going to potentially use the season 2 kids, that we'd rather not have them previewed. They just show up out of nowhere and do whatever they did.
Yeah.
Like, that's something I wouldn't want that to be to be telegraphed in advance.
Well, that's what we even talked about when we played the guessing game, was how much cooler, like, a lot of people were upset they weren't showing up on the posters. If they had the scene of flying in all actiony, it would have been much better to not know about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about the negative, or are there other little bits anyone wants to talk about?
I want to talk about Mako.
Well, Mako's not really a little bit, though, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly, which is why I want to talk about it. Yeah. So, like I said, I watched movie 5 again on Thursday, and watching that, I found that looked like there were two really strong paths that would resolve her character arc appropriately. Because Mako, given how involved she was in Part 5, they could have really screwed that up. Because if you don't pay off with that sort of attention you give to her in Part 5, wow, that character really goes down.
It ends up being a cheat because they spent the time dealing with it.
Absolutely, and everyone who was upset about how much attention she was given in Part 5 would have been absolutely justified in that.
Yeah.
But no, so it's like I saw two possible paths that would resolve her character, and they went with one of them, and I was really happy about that.
And they probably went with the more honest one, to be honest.
I think so too. And movie 5, one thing about Coexistence is it made a really emphasized point about Mako needing to be a source of hope for her partner. And that source of hope ended up being a path to a merciful death.
Yes.
Like, Mekumon was in pain this entire time.
Yeah,
like, she's, Mako would constantly sense her in pain, constantly sense like she's crying right now. All those lines about that. And knowing this, that Mekumon, knowing that Mako was able to accept that, yes, it's okay to go down, to die.
Sometimes
I think that was such an important step to both Mekumon accepting her death and Mako being able to make Merciful Mode happen.
Well, I think it was also a necessary step in regards to the development of the other kids also, who, to a degree, I'm not saying they're wrong, they weren't, but they also were being kids in the way they were looking at how they wanted things to resolve out. And that's not necessarily saying they're wrong. They're not. But, and to a degree, Taiichi was the only one who early on started realizing how it was going to have to end. That maybe whether it was the ending they wanted or not, they had to realize that they accepted, at some point, it was not the responsibility was thrust upon them. They openly accepted it, even if it was thrust upon them originally.
Yeah, for sure. And that, that's a little more movie 5. I'm glad movie 6 kind of carried that on and took that to the next step. My other option was not so much that they found a way, that Mako was able to help Mekumon live, but Mako was more, whatever we do, we're doing this together, whether it means living or dying. Yeah. That was the other option for Mako, and I'm sure the other kids wouldn't have been all that thrilled with that either.
Sorry, go ahead.
Other things I liked about Mako is that she actually tried to help Hikari out. Hikari triggered this Ordine-ary, and was really upset about that, and now Mako's the one kind of turning around and returning the favor, going, "No, it's okay. We'll move on and get past this."
Yeah.
That after everyone did that for her in previous movies, then Mako's the one able to turn that around and help Hikari. Mako also had that great scene with Hackmon, and as much of a softball as that was, she did figure out that password.
Yeah.
I loved that password scene. Like, I mean, I loved the flashbacks, and it was heartwarming. It was touching. The whole dun thing. It was great.
It was except for the fact that as soon as that password screen came up, I knew exactly what the password would be.
It was obvious
but
to me
the scene
as well.
was still done really well.
See,
my reaction was, okay, Mako, this is a softball, knock it out of the park.
My brain exactly went, it's going to either be A, B, or C. It's going to be whichever one she does not put in.
Yes.
Because one of these are the three obvious ones. It would have been Mako, Tottori, or Dandan. It was going to be...
I went straight for Dandan.
Well, I just meant in the sense that plot-wise, it was going to be whichever one wasn't the one that Mako went... Like, she could have easily gone Dandan first.
I'm also happy that Mako got it on the first try. Like, they had Koshiro screw it up a couple times.
Yes. That was fun because it felt like he put in the most obvious passwords you could think of.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like in the dub, the first guess will be Digimon.
I'll have to rewatch the first couple movies to figure out how they translated Dandan to begin with, and the sort of context they.
No, it was Dandan, but that it was said to be Makomon speak.
Right.
Yeah.
I think they sort of reverted that in movie 2, though. I'm
not sure. I'm not sure if that's reverted or they just didn't realize it was the same thing.
Yeah, because they still say in chapter 2, "Oh, my grandma also says Dandan." And I was like, TK's grandma is.
Oh, that's
Makomon?
right. That's right.
Yeah.
You made that. Yeah, I remember you making that joke.
And this is going to be the point of contention with everyone, one way or the other. And I believe AR ended up liking it more than he thought he would if it happened, which was the memory restoration.
Yeah, I was prepared for a lot worse. I mean,
I didn't get to say my thoughts on Mako.
Oh,
sorry.
I thought she was perfect in this. This is the exact amount of focus she should have. Yes, she's important. Yes, she's a key, but her story didn't detract away from the other kids having moments. I love Mako again. Chapter 5 I felt was too much attention for Mako. Chapter 6, this is perfect. She had the perfect amount of attention on her.
See,
she's the key, but not so much, because when I read the spoilers that said, "Oh yeah, Mako turns out to be the key," I was like, "Oh fuck."
Here's the thing, and me and AR, I mean, we've both kind of ranted about this. Every fucking time people read the spoilers, and every fucking time they end up being not really right, and every time everyone who read the spoilers goes, okay, those didn't really work, and then everyone reads them again and we repeat.
What's really funny is here, a couple of the people I know who were, really uppity about the 02 kids, or really, rooting for Daigo or Maki, they did read the spoilers in advance, found out what happened to them, and then they watched the movie and go, okay, I can live with this.
Yeah.
So it sort of worked in reverse in a couple cases, where it's like they sort of get their grievances out of the way, then watch the movie and go, okay.
But
so bad.
But any time the spoilers are read and then you see the film, it's happened every time where it's like you're looking at a poster but you're kind of squinting and you can't really see it, and people go, well, this doesn't make any sense, the movie's gonna be terrible, and then it ends up not lining up with the movie really. That's happened every time so far.
Yeah, it's not wrong that Mako was the key to that.
No,
but...
and all the spoilers were right. They were just vague. It was just bullet points.
The context is often gets lost, which is what happens when you read summaries and stuff like that.
Yeah, I generally put it as the spoilers were not wrong, but they weren't right either.
Yeah.
But getting back to. Were we on a reboot now?
Yeah.
Talking about the undoing the memory. So yeah, I was prepared for a lot worse. I was really, what I was dreading in particular was that the memories would just be handed back to them by some cosmic power.
Yeah.
And while I think that doing it the way they did was a little random and convenient. I think it explained a lot of the stuff we had questions about along the way, like why Mekumon remembered everybody, why Mekumon was so powerful, and it also gave them a nice path back that tied back into Koshiro's arc. And I think the most important thing to stress is that it wasn't that the kids had it, or all the memories just kind of came back to them. It was the fact that the kids earned it. Yeah. That was the most important thing.
And I think it helps that the Digimon commented on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as they're remembering, and then they're... and I think the one that worked best was probably Piyomon.
Mm-hmm.
Because...
Which makes sense.
Yeah. And I feel like...
That's, the scene of all the Digimon getting their memories back was lovely.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad they focused on the Digimon getting their memories back. Like,
and not the kids,
for them and not the kids. Like, the kids did it for the Digimon.
Yeah.
Was what that scene ended up playing out as, and that was so sweet.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about the continuity maybe that everyone's bringing up?
Which one?
Agumon gets memories back that we were never sure if he had and in fact the show said he didn't have in the first place.
Oh, the prequel.
I do not care.
I don't care in the sense of being upset or happy. I just find it interesting. And to be fair,
it's like it's a good observation. And to be like you can debate over it. I'm not really that interested.
No, I know. Plot wise, I'm not sure if we're supposed to take it as that he's being him. I think it might have just been thematically there for us.
Yeah.
I mean, we could argue that it was actually because Taiichi looked a little bit older than he did in the prequel. We could take it as that scene where Taiichi and Agumon go back to when young Taiichi's trying to ride a bike and Agumon pushes him along.
Oddly, I literally said that to someone, and it seemed like Agumon was a little bit too big for that, but either way, it's all it's thematic stuff. It's not really meant to be.
Yeah, it was an image going through
the show's history,
presented
basically.
as going through, and it's all you know Agumon head stuff anyway. So like it's hard to really take that too seriously.
Yeah,
like you can interpret it any way you want, but
exactly.
I don't care to interpret it at all.
Yeah, I took it more thematically than anything, at least myself.
When I rewatch it, I'll probably pay more attention to what scenes in particular were being evoked there, but it's just not such a big deal.
Yeah. I don't know, it was just fun because out of everything to come up, you don't really expect even the most minor flashback to the pre-television show film, at least in that context. So it was kind of neat to have it show up, sort of.
Called back to a previous movie. Those are fun.
And still no specific callbacks to 3 or 4. They kind of wink at a little, but they don't really tell us anything.
Yeah. Not sure if counts. The last positive I had in my list was the biggest surprise I had was that they did get back to Koshiro a little bit. Like, just the fact that Koshiro's arc was what it was, and it was fine in movie 3. But calling back his failure to counter the reboot, that was really nice.
That was really nice, and that just reminded me of the funniest joke of the film. Tentomon with the naked apron.
Oh yeah. Jeez.
That was. I just laughed so hard when that came up.
You had to word it like that, too. Jeez.
Well, that's what it is.
No, I know it is, but Tentomon's always naked.
That's why it was funny. Because they not only did the joke, but they acted like it was special in some way, when he was literally wearing more than he normally does.
Yeah. But, getting back to Koshiro, it was a valid fear that the reboot drama was just kind of going to be glossed over. I loved that Koshiro's work in part 3 ended up helping the group after all.
I love that he was the one who was proactive and he went running off.
Well, yeah, I mean, when they're going to say all technology is going to be wiped up, he's not going to take that line down.
Yes, but you know what I mean. Not in that context, in the sense of that he was the one who was leading the way.
Darned right he is.
Yeah, but you know
all
what
technology's wiped out. The hell
I know, but you know what I mean. And I kind of like that it also... Like, it re-clarifies what the reboot was, to a degree. Yes. Because a lot of people, like, And even Koshiro didn't quite seem to know what the reboot was the first time around, because he honestly seemed surprised that the D3s were still D3s.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the clarification that it only affects quote-unquote digital stuff in whatever universe it happens in.
Mm-hmm.
Although it would have been interesting to see some of the other stuff they point out, like that some of the stuff seems to happen because temporarily the real world is becoming a bit more digital.
Yeah.
I mean, that in itself is kind of a cheat if they, for example, they could have Merciful Mode never show up again and make that completely logical.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally.
And sorry.
I mean, there's a million things in Try that you just hear concepts of, and whoa, that's something you really wish could be fleshed out more. But that's the
Like
fun
Alphamon.
of Try. Yeah.
How do we
There's
all?
a million things in Try. You just go, okay, that's an interesting story in and of itself.
How do we all feel about Merciful Mode? Brain jump this.
He was there.
He was there.
Yeah.
That's an appropriate use, and I think the context makes his title very appropriate.
Yes.
Mm.
Now, this is my favorite argument that we've seen, because I don't feel like we know enough to say one way or the other. Was it a new fusion, or did they just give their energy temporarily?
I thought it was they were inside them because we didn't actually see the other Digimon while Merciful Mode was there.
I feel
like
Interpreted
they
as
were
a new
evaporated.
fusion,
I feel like Try hedged on that.
Yeah,
Because they didn't want us to know, because it leaves it open for whoever might do stuff in the future.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
because then you could have Merciful Mode with other fusions next to him, because they didn't really clarify what actually happened there.
I'll be honest, I wasn't paying that much attention since it's not that much of an interest to me. Like, it's power, like whether it's powers or fusion, it's sort of, that's just more of a semantic argument.
True. Now we'll talk about what May wants to talk about. May, go ahead.
What do I want to talk about?
Ordine-ary's
fuck
ass.
Oh yeah, I was about to say Alphamon, but yeah, fucking Ordine-ary's ass. Like, I'm not sure why we needed like 20,000 fucking ass shots of Ordine-ary, but we got them.
I was gonna say, are we still on positives anymore? Because that's not a positive.
You seemed very positive about it last night when you were joking about it, oddly.
I did not
Yeah,
say, oh, that's not how I took that last night.
Oh, see, I took
it
it
was
as
there.
positive joking.
It's positive joking, but like why?
You know, one of the predictions I got on Tumblr was that Ordine-ary would be overly sexualized. I forgot how I responded to that one, but that was a prediction that someone made, and that someone was right.
I mean, all we got from the other shot was like those boobs, but like did they boob shaped?
Yeah, I was focusing more on the boobs than the other end.
They showed the ass too much. One time they did it, I know what they were doing, where they were like having it be like the pseudo corpse kind of crunched up on the ground, where like it sort of just fell over. But then when they're giving us the ass shots of it floating around, that's when it was too much. I didn't mind the one where it was kind of hunched over because it was supposed to be like a corpse just sitting there, sort of.
Yeah.
That I didn't mind. The random shots were weird. There were some good shots in Try overall, though. Now that I think about it. I like the her flying through the town.
Yeah. Oh, I loved the whole atmosphere of that. The whole Ordine-ary just like flying around.
That worked well.
I don't know. The atmosphere was great.
Yeah, someone made that a 10% prediction was uncomfortable attempts at sexualizing Ordine-ary. I ranked that was the percentage should probably be higher than that, so.
Jeez.
If there's, my response was, it's like, it would be really tricky to sexualize this thing, but if there's an opportunity, I'm sure they'll give it a try.
And they did.
They absolutely did.
All their try.
It was really ridiculous.
Hey, at least we know when they do the Digi-evolving Spirits figure that the ass is already figured out.
And you can slap it.
It still is funny just how quickly we got a complaint about that discussion.
Yeah.
And how quickly we have to talk about it again.
Yes.
It's important.
Could we talk about something else now?
Okay, AR, you can pick what we move on to for Try.
Well, are there any other positives we want to get to? Because I covered my list for positives. If anyone else has anything they want to go into.
I loved how at the end we got the and I never do the noise right there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's not the fucking Mario theme like I just did. I don't know why I jumped to that, but yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Well, like my
Try stage 1-2.
well, like it's roughly the same. It's roughly like the same tone, and I was gonna make the noise, and for some reason my brain just went, like twisted it as I'm saying it into Mario. And I'm like, why the fuck did I make the Mario song?
It, but now all I have in my head is the Underworld theme of Mario.
Yes.
So
yeah,
it's gone now.
Yeah. Okay. May had it.
Yeah.
It's also my ringtone.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, I have my phone on silent all the time, but if I didn't have it on silent, that would be the ring. It is the ringtone.
Okay, so AR, why don't you go into AR's bucket of negativity?
Which one do we want to talk about first, Maki?
Alphamon.
Let's talk about Alphamon first, because Maki, I feel like there's gonna be a bit more arguing about. So let's go about Alphamon. Yeah. So let's go ahead and do Alphamon first.
Okay,
Which one? Yeah. So go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say Meg. Go for it.
Go ahead, May.
So yeah, I didn't actually realize this until like after I watched it, but Alphamon did not appear in this movie, and I was like, maybe he died in chapter 5. So I had to ask people. No, he didn't die in chapter 5. He was there. He seemed like a big important character who had something to do with the plot, considering he was trying to kill Makumon in chapter 1 and was on the poster for chapter 1.
I don't think he was trying to kill her.
He was trying to do something.
He was.
I think it was trying to
after Makumon and willing to kill Mako to her.
I think it was trying to manipulate what was happening.
Yeah, that too. But like, I feel like Alphamon should have also been in the fight. I thought there would be more Royal Knights in this, since we had like
No,
I'm very happy there weren't more.
Yeah,
Royal Knights.
yeah.
I'm ecstatic.
I'm ecstatic that the Royal Knights show up. We didn't get the giant floating white T floating around. That was my my big worry. We're gonna get
having like Saber Yggdrasil show up out of nowhere.
Like
I'm glad
forbid
the final quote unquote enemy. There's how you use air quotes in a podcast. Was just Ordine-ary corrupted by Yggdrasil. Like that's
I'm not even sure it was meant to be Yggdrasil. I think they were just filling up the missing space with his army.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong, I don't think they told us solidly enough to be sure. That's just how I took it.
It's more of a either or semantic type thing again.
Yeah.
But yeah, Alphamon, it's one of those where I don't mind that he wasn't in the movie, but he should have been explained away earlier. Yeah. Like it's just he's a character in the story that you should deal with that.
That's where I kind of stand where I don't mind that he wasn't there, and I don't necessarily think adding him anywhere would have added anything, but I would have appreciated at least the most minimal It's basically the same as, oh look, Jenai's in a tube. Just have Mysterious Man comment that Alphamon's being held in reserve in case this plan doesn't work, or something, just something.
Yeah. I was expecting at some point that they were going to have to branch off and fight multiple different enemies at once, and one of those was going to be Alphamon. Like, I sort of imagined a scenario like that.
I feel like everyone sort of expected and Omegamon versus Alphamon, and Rosemon's going to be against someone, and Ho-Omon's going to be against... for some reason, I felt like that was like, not even a guess, it was the expectation from everyone, as we were going to get this Digimon against this one, and that only really happened in one case. Mm-hmm. Which is
I'm not saying that it's not like the way they ended up doing it was bad. Like, this is probably preferable to that, but it's just a weird absence.
Now, there are one or two logical reasons why Alphamon may not have been there, but they didn't say anything, so that doesn't really count at the moment.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about Maki?
Sure.
Let's do it.
Yeah. I'm both I'll admit I'm a little shocked I was actually right, because I didn't actually expect that. It's what I wanted. I'm very happy that Maki just had the downer ending, and that's just it. There was no further...
Dead?
No, downer ending, not death.
I know, but like,
I don't know what happened to her. I don't believe she's dead. I believe events in 02 inform what happens to Maki.
What happens to Maki?
I believe she's married to Cthulhu now.
Oh, fair. Me too.
Yeah.
Well, she found a new partner, at least.
God damn it. Oh, no, okay.
Hey,
I wanna
okay,
have a
wait,
happy
wait,
ending.
wait,
No, shut
wait,
up, guys.
wait.
I have a,
No,
I want to say happy
no,
ending.
I need to say.
Go.
Okay.
No, I want to hear what May has to say.
Go ahead.
Okay,
man.
this is my happy ending. Okay, I forgot its name, but she meets Oikawa's partner, who's
Yeah.
little green what is it called? No, it's not Pippismon. It's something like that, like Pimon or something.
PP.
Yeah.
So she meets Oikawa's partner, who
Mhm.
is in the Dark Ocean because he's depressed because his partner died like
And then he
3
eats
years
her.
ago.
You know who
So-
the ideal new partner for Maki would be?
That
Offmon.
Digimon. Who?
Offmon. From
Aw.
Atmon.
And he's so
Offmon lost his partner, so he
Yeah,
can
but-
partner
but
with
Off-
Maki now, and Maki can send him up to Rebootmon.
But
it's-
Offmon's also not a little asshole who caused all the problems in the first place on purpose.
Aw.
You were saying that?
He was complicit.
Was that it?
Yeah, I just it could
I'm not-
make me so happy with
So-
Oikawa's partner.
Yeah, well, I mean, to Mark's point, it is a resolution, and it's, for the sake of this movie, I can understand why they did it. At the same time, Maki was probably the most interesting character in Try for the first 4 movies.
Oh, yes, definitely.
I don't agree, because I think it was interesting what she wanted and why she did everything, and that she was basically one of the driving forces of the story. I think the character in and of herself, it was kind of an obvious path of she never grew out of it. She never got rid of the tunnel vision, even though we see Daigo try, and that she was going towards a bad end, and it was just a matter of what that bad end was going to be. And I don't mind that she ends up in the place for people who can't pull themselves out of depression and whatever in that context of the story.
Okay, but, I mean, she's a villain, but at the same time, her story is a very sympathetic one. I mean, she's a very...
It's sympathetic to a point.
Because
that's
how villains
but what
operate. They're sympathetic.
But what I mean is,
a point.
no, there was a sympathetic origin to her story. Past that, there was no sympathetic where she's thinking what she's doing might be wrong, but she has to do it. That's never played at all. There's a sympathetic origin to it, but it's even pointed out to her and shown to us that there were plenty of times when they tried to pull her out of it, and she even pretended to be out of it because she specifically knew that she was doing the wrong thing.
I mean, I still sympathize with her a lot, and the thing about Digimon is a lot of these sympathetic villains usually do end up getting some sort of redemption, long or short, somehow. Like, the best comparison for me with Maki is Impmon. Like, with Impmon, like, you got to a point with Impmon, you kind of understand that he's kind of an asshole and made a lot of bad decisions. At the same time, you're kind of sort of behind him and rooting for him.
I feel like
but he did, and then obviously does something that was totally unforgivable, and then he was punished for it.
I feel like the case with Impmon, though, is he early on he's playing pranks, and then he's spinning past something he doesn't know how to deal with.
Yeah,
and he does the horrible thing, which he's not necessarily completely happy with, and then he finds a way to do better. I never see any of that in this case, and I'm not saying every story has the potential for it, mind you. We never saw anything suggesting, even for a moment, that she thought that she should maybe not do this. There was no moment where it goes from her joking to making the wrong decision. Everything about her appearance is specifically her trying to do wrong by other people.
But even then, there are plenty of characters where that's the case as well, where they don't really question themselves until that moment when they realize they've gone too far, and then the redemption arc begins. Like, it's not only Impmon.
Oh, no,
you can also look at the Kaiser. You can also look at Yamato. Other characters where they don't really question it until they get past that point. I
don't disagree with that, but I don't think it has to happen with every character. And I think a lot of those characters, we also saw things where they maybe weren't as sure of what was going on as they thought, which also made them consider things in different ways. Here, we have a character who does know what's going on. She clearly knows she's working with the crazy evil people to get what she wants. She doesn't care. I don't necessarily have a problem with going, there is no redemption arc for this character.
Well, even if it's not a redemption arc, there should have been some arc to follow that. Like, she was punished for it, and, you know, Impmon was punished after he killed Leomon. You know, all those Digimon going in and kicking his ass until he's back from Beelzebumon. But that is the equivalent of where Maki's story ends. Impmon has a third chapter. Impmon has a third arc to his story, and even if it's not going to be a redemption arc, I think Maki deserved to have that third act of her story.
I think the plot would suggest that she deserves nothing and got nothing. I'm not saying I don't see your point. I'm just saying it's a bit too standard to do the villain maybe doesn't get redeemed, but maybe does start understanding other people's points. And it was a little bit different to just go, no, she tried to take everything from everyone. She lost the one thing she was being nuts over to get, and then she spun out.
She did definitely spin out, but either way, I think I think there needed to be an additional chapter to her story, or at the very least make it more conclusive what happened to her. Like, it does feel...
See, I kind of like that. I kind of like that we have the wink to it being conclusive, but only based on prior things we know. I kind of like that she is there if they ever want to bring her back, because they weren't conclusive about it.
And that's sort of my next point. What makes me okay with that is the possibility that they could bring her back. Like, the only reason I'm not, like, furious about this is because of the possibility that she could come back in a sequel.
To be clear, the possibility is there. I would rather they didn't. I would rather that just be the very end we ever see of her.
Oh, I want her to come back partnered with Daemon to just wreck shit.
Yeah, or Diaboromon.
Daemon's already in the Dark Ocean.
And we should talk about the sequel bait, shall we?
I was going to get to a few more negatives before we get to the sequel bait, because the sequel bait ties into a lot of the negatives I had with this. The other one I wanted to talk about was the 02 rescue, because while, you know, from Daigo's perspective, I was okay with this death, but what was Jay's big point about the contrivances, about the way that was handled? Because I kind of agree with those as well.
Just that the whole him, like, the possibility of, like, oh, who's going to be the one to be saved? Of course it's going to be the one who's not dead.
Here's the parallel I make with that. That felt an awful lot to me like a Jigsaw morality trap.
Well, yeah. To a degree, but that's what it was meant to be. It was meant to be a morality trap by someone who doesn't understand how morality works, and that you're dealing with two characters who simply weren't going to stab each other in the back. Like that.
Like, you knew once he introduces the circumstances and the situation, you knew how that was going to end. But just the fact that it felt so arbitrary that he just set it up that particular way to begin with.
But that's also. But I think
like,
that's.
It felt like tailor-made for Daigo to have that heroic sacrifice.
I think that's also.
And for that matter, it was also just so convenient that they just stumbled into this situation where, hey, if you push the button, the 02 kids are rescued.
But I believe that is the mysterious man. That is his way of thinking. Like, he does believe that they're just ready to stab everyone else in the back. They're using Digimon. I mean, that is how he's taught. I don't think he gets it. You know what I mean?
It is, but it's just it did feel really contrived and convenient for me. And that's this is another thing about sequel bait, is the idea that they didn't do character designs for him. Like, we were talking about how they brought Taichi's dad back so easily.
But he's also a character who doesn't matter.
Right. And
here's the thing. I know a lot of people wanted to see the 02 kids with designs. I'd rather they didn't, because then if they ever bring them back in the future, they get to design them from scratch for the era.
Yes, 100%,
Yeah.
absolutely. I am completely in agreement on that, and the reason why I'm not mad about all this, like I'm not like furious about this again, is because of that potential sequel bait.
Yeah.
It doesn't change the fact that it looks like crap.
I feel like they should have done the silhouettes the way they did in part 1. That actually looked decent.
That would have been. I would have been okay with
the
that.
issue here
or
was
even just generic.
The issue-
try to keep their faces as generic as possible without giving too many features. So whoever does character designs for this hypothetical sequel would be able to have more interpretation.
The issue here was the more black hole style of the.
Yeah.
That
it's like the reason I'm not like furious about it again is just like what you said about the circumstances about having this future character design being able to interpret them way
does anyone want new character designs that are going to show up for 5 seconds when there's the potential of doing real ones in the future? It doesn't make sense to do.
When there's potential of doing real ones in the future, and that is the big point in all that.
Yeah.
At the same time, you just look at it the way it is, take it for what you're seeing on the screen, it just doesn't look good.
I don't disagree there. Although I may be wrong. Did they just take Cody's artwork and stretch it?
Kind of, I think.
Yeah.
I was mostly going off of head designs, their profiles.
Yeah, but his head felt kind of long, like they stretched it.
He had a growth spurt, it's okay.
Shall we talk about the sequel bait now?
The only thing I would add about the 02 is it also doesn't say anything about their Digimon, which
well, to be fair, we never saw that the Digimon were there at the beginning, anyways.
Yeah, like it's obvious, they're going to be fine, I'm sure, but it's a bit concerning that they didn't come up.
I feel like that was the moment where it gets into too much if you have them standing around. The focus had to be
that's again another detail that the movie jettisoned to get the plane on the ground.
Exactly. Now sequel bait?
Yeah.
Okay. Not only sequel bait, it goes back to the first moment of Try when you really think about it, is him walking around playing with the cube. That actually surprised me.
Yeah.
Because
there's that cube from the Demiurge conversation.
Because it then requires a few different questions to be asked, like, did that happen by accident in the first place? And the cube was part of Makumon, so maybe.
Yeah, it's an interesting question.
Now the real sequel bait moment, which is both great and utterly terrible, is the random 2 name drops as he's jumping into the portal.
It's good and terrible just for the fact that I've heard so many conversations and I've contributed to them about how appropriate it would be for Try to incorporate Daemon, given the way Daemon was dealt with in 02. Like, that's the one that if anyone's gonna come back, that would be perfect.
Well, my thing is it's not even a name drop as the character could return. It's just a name drop. Like, there's no...
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Like, it's both fantastic that they did it, and also kind of terrible that that's the wink, there could be more. That it's literally just...
Like, I don't give a crap that they mentioned Diablomon, but, yeah, Daemon
it's
is
literally
just right there. Like, oh, that would be so good.
It's literally just like...
That is the single most tantalizing villain you could name in that situation.
But, like, this is why the term name drop exists.
Mm-hmm.
There's no context or anything. They just name 2 villains that people are going to recognize and move on. Maybe next time it'll be Demon or Diablomon. Invamdemon. I feel...
Diablomon will return with James Bond in the final...
Of course, the thing is it's some people didn't understand why that name was dropped. We've already seen that character effectively cheat death.
Yeah.
So they may be able to do it again. Do we have anything else to talk about for Try Part 6?
Just like maybe I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
About do you guys think the Try was worth it overall, as out of all the 6 parts together?
I would find it very hard to take seriously anyone who said it wasn't. if only because of what it's done for the brand.
Yeah, it's been it's uplifted the franchise so much. It's really hard to. There's no real argument to say it wasn't worth it at all.
Yeah.
Like, whether or not the series was your cup of tea is, that's your personal preference, but it's done so much for Digimon in general, and it's, spawned so much merchandise. It's kept series alive. It spawned the stage play, which I know a lot of people who don't care for Tri enjoyed the stage play very much.
Oh, the stage play was perfect. I loved it.
Yeah, stage play was great.
Yeah.
And, it's a question whether or not you could attribute Appmon to Tri. Those are kind of two different things, but at the very least, if the sequel or if the follow-up project doesn't end up being Tri, it certainly was because of Tri.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely, it was worth doing.
Yeah. Anything else about Tri?
Thank you.
I think I'm good.
It was a great ride. I whether or not it ends up being on top for me, I'm not entirely sure about, just because of the way they handled certain things like Maki, but we'll see how it plays out. Like, I'll probably have to rewatch it once again to make that final determination as to whether I keep it on top or whether something like Tamers supersedes it, but it's definitely 1 or 2 for me.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I feel like the ending was quite flat. Like, it felt like there could have been more. Like, I was surprised that was sort of the ending, because it just sort of ended.
I was sort of expecting something like that. Like, I know we like these big, massive throw everything like the kitchen sink at everything. The way pretty much every series other than Adventure and 02 do it, where they just have these raucous final battles. And then, also have time for a little bit of emotion. The way Appmon ended it certainly is a great example of that. But the way even, Tamers and Savers and even series that weren't necessarily as successful, like Frontier Hunters, just had these massive, wild finales. I wasn't expecting that for Tri, and I wouldn't say we got it.
I think Tri ended about how it needed to.
Yeah.
I don't know. It felt like they weren't sure whether they're going to continue with the story. Like, it felt like, hey, are we going to be renewed for a second season?
Yeah, exactly.
We're not sure. Here's a little bit of a thing.
No, I think
it felt like a season finale that didn't know whether the show was getting renewed or not, so they had to account for possibilities.
I think it ended the way it was going to, with the admission that they very likely will not be the final people to touch it, so they left a few things more obvious for potential future people.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think that if they knew there wasn't going to be more, they would have made a couple changes to make a few things more conclusive.
But here's the thing. They knew it was the end 16-ish years ago, and it wasn't. I think at this point, the team making it could admit that even if they're sure it's the end, it's not.
Yeah.
But I guess my point is, like, maybe when they composed the structure of the entire series from movie 1, they kind of had something in mind that this is going to be it, but by the time they got to movie 5 and 6, they go, let's leave a few things open for the next
I think they always intended to leave those handful of things open, to be honest. Because stuff like the O2 kids, I don't think there was ever an intention to show them more detailed. And it was always going to be that if they were going to show up, it would be in something in the future. It wasn't going to be here.
I think that if there's absolutely no chance of a sequel immediately, like there wasn't one going to be teased at the ending of Tri, I think they would have shown them more.
No, I don't think that was ever going to be the plan. I think from moment 1 they said this was a sequel to Adventure. I think that was.
No, I'm not saying that they would have been incorporated into the story more. I'm saying that they would have gotten, like, character designs.
Maybe. I just don't see that it was worth their time or money to do character designs for quick showing at the end.
If there was no prospect of having anything after that, I think they would have tossed us a bone on that one.
See, my issue is I think there was always the prospect of more, whether there was going to be more immediately or not. I think from moment 1, the entire point of bringing it back was to keep it going. but they just didn't know when they were doing it if that was going to be immediately a few years later. I think the idea was to set it up so Adventure could continue, is what I mean.
Right, but you can still do that without necessarily leaving specific Tri things open. Like, you can have, Tri and then have another series that doesn't build off of Tri while keeping the same continuity. Like, you don't have to explore... you don't have to go back to
what I'm saying is
or anything like that.
But what I'm saying is that was the point of Tri, was setting it up so there is a framework for more stuff that's new, but could also feature old characters. Outside of the framework of them being parents, is what I mean.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'd also make the point that even if they did show, character designs for the 02 kids, another project coming on 5 years down the road could change them dramatically, and I don't think anyone would be all that mad about it.
Yeah. I just think that's kind of how they plan things to go. But that's basically it for Tri-Part 6 for now.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that covered.
So I say thumbs up, AR.
For Tri in general, thumbs up for this movie. Thumbs kind of in the middle towards slightly up.
Okay, May.
Yep, same as AR. For Tri, thumbs up. For this one, yes, kind of like thumbs diagonal.
Okay.
Thumbs diagonal side. The thumbs diagonal. Up.
Diagonal positive, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
not like fully up. Just kind of like it happened. It was okay. Like it was okay. It wasn't bad. As we said at the start, the plane landed. Whether or not it was a good landing, but it didn't crash.
Yeah.
Okay. And I believe you were gonna duck out, May.
Yeah, I have to duck out because I've got stuff on. But thank you for having me and thank you for listening. And Tri happened. Yeah, better than Chapter 5.
Goodbye.
See ya. Bye.
Okay. We'll move on to the news, and while mostly I do the news, AR will collect questions from you guys.
If everyone wants to put questions in the chat, I'll collect them. Someone posted one much earlier that I recorded because they had to leave.
So moving on, it first showed up at the preview screening with Motonaga and Watanabe. They announced a new Digimon something. The text said, "The adventure will evolve again. New project begins." I feel like the obvious tease is it's new adventure.
Yeah, it would be really hard to do something different.
I want to say that Watanabe's Twitter, I want to say he seemed surprised that his artwork showed up for this specific teaser.
Yeah, it's a interesting choice with that, but
but
I think they weren't trying to be too. Yes, this is absolutely.
I think
they wanted to keep the possibilities.
Yeah, I
think they wanted to keep us guessing.
Yeah, I think what happened though was I may have misread it, but I believe what he was saying was like he had drawn it, he didn't know what it was going to show up for, and then he was surprised for it to pop up at a screening he was at. And then it's shown up at all the screenings since then, and they put it on Twitter because we keep getting a hold of the poster before they want us to. So I feel like this time they gave it to us just to not deal with that.
Well, especially for something like we don't know what, if anything's going to be happening next, so they're just going to say flat out, we're going to do something.
Now,
because with the posters, like with the movie posters leaking, like we know there's going to be a next movie. We just don't know what the poster's going to look like.
Yeah. Now, if we were to guess, Adventure 4, right? That's like the obvious guess. I feel like that's the only logical guess to make minus who knows.
Yeah, it's whether or not it's what they necessarily want to do, especially with the way this final movie had so much sequel bait, it's really hard to do anything else.
Yeah.
Like, people are expecting more Tri. Giving them anything else would be just a bad decision. The comparison I would make is sort of like you look at the sequel tease at the end of the original Back to the Future. I don't know if the people who were doing Back to the Future 2 necessarily wanted to go in that direction, but they kind of had to.
Well, remember, it's the same people.
Yeah, but
also,
I think they watched that end of the movie and we've got to do something.
Well, they actually admit that's why Jennifer's in the second movie, was because she's in the car at the end of movie 1. They had to find something to do with her.
Right.
Is that they literally admit that there was never any plan for any sequel. When they decided to do one, that's where they left off. They had to have her involved in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sort of the sequel tease dictated what they're doing.
Yeah. We'll have much more to say about this in the future, but I feel like we can't really say more than...
Yeah, it's all speculation at this point.
Yeah. So
we have educated speculation, but...
Yeah. And in slightly less relevant news, because there were a few theater updates, they announced the pamphlet souvenir booklet really late, like days before it came out. 36 pages this time. Kenji Watanabe has been interviewed for so many things, he has to be kind of sick of it. They announced midnight and 2:20 a.m. screenings for the first day, which 2:20 a.m. screenings too late even for me. And they said that they were going to have more copies of 4 and 5, the theater versions, which were... I believe these were leftover overstock because they didn't even know what theaters they were going to be at, which was kind of funny. And then, various companies announced, hey, we're going to have tri-marathons before you see Part 6. So, look, because Animax announced it, Netflix announced it. Kind of neat, but nothing really that relevant. But this was really relevant, though. We did scans and breakdown the normal version of the Tri-Part 6 ED. Great song. We forgot to mention that in the episode cut, they were actually smart enough to only use it at the end of the last.
Yeah, I saw a few people that said that they really wanted to skip the endings until the very last one, just because of that effect. And Crunchyroll did that for us.
Well, I assume that was Toei.
Yeah.
The normal version comes in a CD single case. Nice scans. Check them out. I spent more time on them than I probably should have. And see, this was the part where we really needed May talking about all the fancy stuff. The Tri-Part 6 mini towel, which last week May really wanted. The Giga towel, also. 2 different summer camp nylon jackets. The necklace and chokers, which I really like the crest and tag designs. The Digivice, I'm not sure if I like. It feels a little bit too basic. And then, the important thing. We've joked at the watch last time that they were putting it up for the last batch. They made a new one because, of course they did. Although, I feel like this one looks a lot better. Because they got rid of some of the unneeded flourishes from the original. And the primary thing people seem to be really happy is gone, who none of us are buying it anyways, was the red monkey logo underneath the Omegamon head.
Oh, yeah.
Now, AR, do you plan on buying the $450 watch?
Think I'm gonna pass.
Yeah, I think I'll pass on it too. It does feel nicer than the last one, though, which is kind of odd, because they're over $400.
For $400, they all better be nice.
Yeah. And moving on to a few returning products. We only found out about the first re-release like a month ago, but they're going to re-release Digicol Series 2. Which, there are some really nice ones in this one. I just, I feel like the best one's probably Tentomon. Like, it just looks so good.
Yeah, the Tentomon's really, really good on this one.
Yeah, these will probably be cases of 8 again, plus randomly packed. And because the watch came back, they brought back the art visual collection. These are where they print the posters large. They do it with a crazy 8-color printing process. This time they're going to have Uki Atsuya sign them all. And they're going to charge $280 each. But they're adding 5 and 6. And I like how they only add the one from Part 6, almost as a threat to expect another in the future. They're very nice, but we do know a handful of people who've told us they've gotten the watch. I don't know anyone who's gotten one of these.
Yeah.
I mean, have you heard of anyone getting one of these?
I don't think so, no.
Although lately Toei has been fighting people trying to get them, even. The Toei store now, it tries to block VPNs, Most intermediaries won't deal with them anymore because they're apparently a pain in the ass to deal with. I even tried contacting one last night just to find out if they had any plans to list the Toei store for the future, and they said, no, not really. Moving on to more pleasant products, we have the packaging preview for Outler Kabuterimon, and is this the most awesome Tentomon and Outler Kabuterimon have ever looked, or what?
Sorry, I'm having a coughing attack right now.
Oh, okay.
Go on.
Like, the art looks great. They moved the little metal badge to not block the horn. This is the first time that we're getting the Bandai Spirits logo on one of the figures, which looks pretty much the same as the previous Bandai logo. And then we get to see all the partner boxes together. And it just is a great way to remind you, wow, these are great, and there's many more of them planned that they've sort of shown us in the past. And they've also, teased a few other things, like they finally showed a proper photo of the Shikishi board that director Kakudo I'm saying his name very poorly today.
Kakudo.
There we go. And there's going to be an interview with Kenji Watanabe in the middle of May. They have both of them standing there with Target Nishizawa.
Mm-hmm.
He looks very excited. They're trying to look very professional. And I've never quite figured out what the hell it is he's wearing. It looks like he's wearing like a headband forward.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Tentomon figure really does look like as good as you could imagine. And to skim over a few more Battle Spirits art updates, some of these we've seen before. I feel like I like the Alphamon, I like the Armageddon. The high point is the better look at Merciful Mode.
Yeah.
I keep having to stop myself from calling him Miracle Mode, and I don't know why. But yeah, the artwork for that's fantastic. I mean, that really looks amazing.
Yeah.
They keep adding more and more previews, so there's more and more at the site. So check those there. They announced a few Battle Spirit events. Basically, the first one is events for people who don't know how to play, where they give you a non-Digimon deck to play around with, along with a board and everything, and then after you learn how, they give you the Chosen Children starter deck, which is great.
Yeah.
And then they have tournaments for more advanced players, and they don't quite clarify what the Merciful Mode art is from, but we believe it's a big poster for the winner, like they did with Omegamon last time.
Right.
Yeah. And I like how the entry fee includes the cards you end up using in the tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you make a small deck, you play, and at the very least, you have roughly what you would have paid for the cards. That's kind of neat.
Mm-hmm.
None of us are going to play that card. Anyone who imports that card game is importing it just for the art.
Yeah, which is a fair reason to import it.
No, it is. But every once in a while, someone pops up. So is this going to show up in English to play? It's like, no, it's not. And I literally don't know anyone importing to try it for the art, for the game. I mean,
the game, yeah.
Yeah. And we finally have some real details for Re-Arise.
Not the question you're asking, but yeah.
Hey, I say questions because a lot of these aren't solid details.
We have details.
Yes.
We don't have answers.
Yeah, pre-registration are up on the iOS App Store and Google Play. Theoretically, the iOS App Store link works. The Google Play link they've given does not work. We have not yet figured out if that's a mistake, some sort of region lock, or if the page just is not up yet. The Apple Store says the game will be out July 29th.
When you pre-register, does it list a cost?
No, I assume this is a free-to-play game, or it's some sort of notification system. Rather, yeah, it might be too early.
Because that was one of the questions we had.
Well, it's one of those things where it's so early, even if it does cost, this may just be registering for notification.
Yeah.
Sure. But yeah, the Apple Store says July 29th. The Re-Arise Twitter says early summer. Wink, wink. They put up a quiz online to win a wallpaper, which, despite not speaking Japanese, I successfully got through and then transcribed for everyone. And then I found the wallpapers were only 720p, because, sure, why not? I feel like the real high point was the artwork the Bandai Twitter put up.
Oh, I know.
Which is literally, it's Arizmon waving hello to everyone, and Tailmon about to pounce on him. And the Tailmon drawing looks so great, and they even point out how mischievous she looks.
Little tail motions in there, it's great.
And moving on from that, I mean, this is probably the thing. I mean, you heard me and May talk about it last week, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still very cynical about that they keep sort of digging him out of his grade. But the lineup for this, holy shit. Like, if there was a thing to go out on, it is this.
They have somebody in this lined up whose only contribution was something in Hunters.
Well, the thing you have to remember, though, also, Psychic Lover's pretty big.
Yeah.
But like, and they were friends of his also.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, there are people who weren't necessarily that connected with Digimon music, but were personal friends of him that worked with him.
And I'm not trying to slag Hunters here.
No.
Kageru Chikara is an awesome song.
Yeah. And
it's just that they're really stretching across the franchise with that.
So, I'm not going to go over what everyone did, just to go over their names quickly. I mean, we all know Ayumi Miyazaki. We know AIM. I feel like most fans who pay attention to the music knows Hassie. Because they did Forever Friends. The big surprise is they finally told us who Wild Child Bound is, which a lot of people seem to think it was Wada Koji throwing his voice. I don't think it ever really sounded like him.
Got that impression, but yeah.
Neither did I. Some people have told me.
Honestly, I just didn't really think about it. I saw the name Wild Child Bound, like, oh, okay.
For many years, that's like how I thought of it. And then someone pointed out to me, "Do we know who it is?" And this was a few years ago. I'm like,
yeah,
it's Wild Child Bound. They're like, no, but who is it? There's no credit. And I'm like, oh, that's not that abnormal, but it's kind of odd. They reveal, the Digimon music.
I've seen it done before, but yeah.
Masataki Fujishige. I like how the Digimon music producers even like his identity's been secret until now, but they kind of have to reveal it since he's going to be on stage not wearing a mask. Then there's Sammy. For Savers fans, there's Ikuyo. I'm pretty sure I'm saying his name wrong. Then from Miu Miu's Yukiko. I guess they broke up. I don't know. I mean, we mentioned Psychic Lover, and they're pretty big. Makoto Tako, who has done work with Wada Koji. We have Mayuka Kimura and Uza, who apparently they both worked with Wada Koji, both on his album Ever and Digimon Savers music. We have Cho Watanabe, who did the arrangement for the original version of Butterfly. Hidenori Chiwata, who wrote and composed Butterfly, and there doesn't seem to be many new photos of him. Every photo used of him is like low-resolution photos from 2000.
Okay.
And then one of the bigger people who they went with last was Michiko Uta, who he's composed more Digimon songs than is worth naming. Most people would probably know him from singing Slash, though. But like, he still works with the brand today. He composed Ai Kotoba.
Yep.
And the best host ever for an event like this, Volcano Oda.
Hell yeah.
And then, of course, this is where it feels like they're baiting us again. The two special guests are Junko Noda and Takahashi Naozumi, who are Vmon and Wormmon. Like that.
As a point, Junko Noda has done stuff for Digimon music events in the past.
Yeah, even right at Christmas, where she sung Target as Vmon at an event.
Don't get your hopes up, even though at the time we all did.
We all did a little. Like with the vague admission that there's probably going to be more adventure, I feel like this feels somewhat more like this doesn't feel that different than, hey, DigiFest, it's going to be a Digimon concert and we're going to announce some products and there'll be some guests there, but we're not really going to announce anything, wink wink.
See what happens when they announce the guest list for the Thanksgiving festival.
I feel like we kind of expect that to be where stuff shows up.
Yeah.
But
which is actually one of the questions that was asked, but anyway.
And then next up, Hasbro bought stuff from Saban Brands. This really does not. This doesn't affect. Like, I have to mention it because I keep getting questions about it.
I think that Well, yeah, because
yeah, okay,
Saban is Digimon is so closely tied to Saban that everyone just sort of makes that mental leap, whether or not it's they should be.
So let me go over everything really, really quickly. The Legacy Digimon stuff, which last time that was mentioned, that's Adventures Through Savers, as far as we can tell. Saban Brands does not have that anymore. Toei has been licensing products on their own.
Mm-hmm.
As far as we're aware, that's done. Music from the first 3 shows Saban sold off a few years ago as part of the catalog. The season 4 stuff, I believe, was sold back to them and then was sold off when that happened. Data Squad music was always half owned by Studiopolis, half owned by Toei. As far as we can tell, Saban does still own and certain rights to Cross Wars, which ends kind of soon. Like, those rights can't be lasting much longer.
Yeah, and even if those did transfer, are they really going to do anything with those?
Well, there's nothing to do with them before they would cancel anyways, because it's not like they're going to do season 3.
Yeah.
Toei has been dealing with on their own.
Yeah.
And everything we've seen says that they're doing the same with Alphamon. So, does this affect us at all? There's technically a 1% chance it might affect us, but no, it does not.
Yeah.
So, it just means that we're not going to see a Power Rangers Digimon crossover anytime soon, which we weren't expecting anyways.
Yeah.
Then we have our contest winners, which were for the Tri-Part 4 Blu-rays. Agu Champ drew a very nice Makomon.
Pieces here.
Yeah.
Good job with these.
Applefang wrote about... I did not expect anyone to write about Bakumon/Tapirmon. And
I applaud them for doing so.
Yeah, I really do. And Tabitha wrote about Mimi, which kind of an obvious choice to make, but also a really good choice to make.
Since May's gone already, Mimi is best girl.
Yes. That's one of those things where it's like, oh, May's gonna love talking about this. Oh, May's gone. Oh well.
Just had to slip. I gotta slip it in there.
UK Tri-Part 4 came out in the UK. Thanks to Kay, we were able to do the breakdown of it. It looks nice.
Check it out for that.
And and Gomamon got his card finally.
Just jealous that they get cards over there.
And they're jealous that we get digital copies. It's the most hilarious thing I've ever seen. Every U.S. release, the UKers pop out. Why don't we also get a bonus DVD and a digital copy? And then every UK release, the U.S. fans pop out. We want the poster and the card and the home video artwork. And see, this is the one we needed May for. Tri-Part 4 is coming to Australia in August.
This is good. Yeah, the response here from May is going to be, I hope they have a release that spells everything correctly and doesn't mess up the art.
Yep. And
I can fill in here for May if I need to.
And the last bit of news. Next Thursday is the English dub theatrical one night for Part 5. Hooray!
Yeah, I've got tickets. I assume this is going to be.
I have tickets. I have tickets for Part 6 already because I'm insane.
I bought my Part 5 tickets just last week. So I'm not that insane. I do not have Part 6 tickets yet, but I obviously will get them.
Check your local theater. It should be 7:30. Everyone. It is fun to see it with people. It's especially fun to see it because it's not packed to the point you feel sick.
Yeah, I mean it's a nice little balance. Like, I always wish for a few more. Like, I think I had maybe a dozen. I go to like a suburb of Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So it's not like the most packed thing ever because it's not a huge population area, but it's nice that it's close enough to me that I can go see it.
Yeah.
And I think we had like a dozen in there last time, but it was really fun. And afterwards, we can all hang out and talk about how great it was. And
oh no! See,
at the time we were all talking about Hacker's Memory, really.
See, that's where I should do that, but like when the movie's over, I just want to go home. I just want to like not be out anymore.
Well, I have to balance it because the last few times I've immediately written a blog post about it, which I'm saving the blog post about the dub after I finish all the Part 6 coverage. But so it'll be a couple weeks. I will probably write it because it's fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
But
okay, that's it for nice short news batch, and now. Questions, AR?
Okay, I'm still trying to come up with an answer for this one. So we all talk about how try should be something that we watch watch a couple times to get to understand it. What plot detail sticks out to you most after rewatching it? Like you go back, you watch something, and you catch something that you probably missed the first time.
For me, when I've gone, because I do breakdowns, so I end up rewatching stuff sometimes way too many times. It's not necessarily single things. It's more that it makes it harder to take one specific complaint seriously, which is that they don't seem to know where they're going with things, or that things have been changed really quickly. Like
that's just a good general answer. I'm trying to come up with something specific. Just sort of covers.
I just mean like we watch it earlier on, things don't necessarily make more sense, but they gain further context.
I think for me, the biggest movie for that one is movie 2, because they have so many little things in there.
Yeah.
Like for me, the biggest eye opener that I had going back and watching something was a scene in movie 2 that I didn't understand the first time I saw it, where you had Makumon kind of spacing out at the hot springs, and this random cutaway to Hikari looking at her camera funny, like it's glitching a little bit, and at first it's like you don't really see what's going on there. You going back and watching it, I'm like,
that is a good one. I guess the instant that they reveal what's going on with Makumon, that sort of clicked with me as just stuff glitching.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. That does make far more sense. But yeah, it was
going back and watching it once you realize that Makumon is responsible for things glitching.
Yeah.
Like you go, okay, that's what's happening there. That's why that shot is in there, when it seems really random. Maybe the first time you see it.
Yeah,
the first couple movies especially are just full of stuff that.
I feel it's kind of a cheat because it doesn't really answer it. For me, I think it's kind of more putting the context to Yamato, where even with having watched part 6, where
as a broader thing for sure.
Yeah.
Like I haven't gone and watched parts 2 and 3 since movie 5 came out, but I just know that everything, all the stuff I had issues with Yamato in parts 2 and 3, once you see how he's portrayed in parts 5 and 6, it all comes back and goes, oh, okay, that's what they were doing. It makes sense now.
Yeah, they like the complaint that almost everyone had was that everyone seems to be growing up to some degree, and he seems to be fighting it, and it doesn't really seem clear why. And it's because they are growing up, and he just doesn't get it. And here, it's sort of punched into his head, and he has to get it.
Like, guess what? You got to do it now.
Yep.
You have the goggles.
Next.
If Digimon made a new original anime, what would you like to see in terms of improvement and originality? This is a tough one to do on the spot, isn't it?
I kind of shrug at this one because, not because it's a bad question, it's a good one, but I feel like we don't really have the time to go into.
This is an entire topic, I think.
Yeah.
The short answer I would give to
new
this
stuff.
one is,
New stuff.
Actually, what I would like to see is, it's been almost 20 years now. I really want to see them kind of do something, just play with the original format again, is just have a bunch of kids and a single Digimon partner get zapped into the digital world and have an adventure. They have never done that since season 1 in the anime.
That's sort of Cross Wars at the beginning, sort of.
Not completely. And Cross Wars
that's why I
said
sort of.
Other stuff thrown into,
Look, here's what we want.
To make kind of a refreshing, to make a different twist on that. And Digimon is so concerned with taking things differently with every season, and I really appreciate that. I love that. Just once, I really kind of want to see them go back to the well, especially considering how many problems I have with the original Adventure series.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see what a new team of writers, especially, seeing how successful they were with Appmon, handle that original concept.
Most companies just seem unwilling to do that. They think they have to keep going bigger and different.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that that's wrong, but I do. But you're not wrong either in that. Hey, there's a reason why this is the most popular one and always will be, and nothing else will ever touch it.
Definitely.
It's not just because it was the first one, it's because of the way it was constructed and worked.
That format really can work.
Yeah. Next up, and we might go back to that question for a topic in the future.
Yeah, mark that down as a possible topic when we're getting really dry for new anime or manga or game content or figure content. Another question we can answer quickly is: do you think that because at the end of the movie the real world was mixed a little with the digital world energy, would the killing a Digimon in the human world rule still be active?
I think generically they're not really looking to change the rules. I mean, I don't think that was the point. I think the one thing we can ask is what could they loophole based on what was happening right then?
Yeah,
I don't think they're changing any rules permanently, quote unquote. I think what they've done though is they've opened up a specific loophole that could be used in future stories based on right then.
That's exactly. Like, I don't think we're meant to believe that obviously Makumon could potentially be revived, but if they wanted to do it, that's your out.
Yeah.
Next one I'm going to get to is: how likely is it that the remaining 3 original Chosen and the 4 Holy Beasts will be involved in the presumed sequel?
Could the Holy Beast show up? Sure. I kind of go back to the pre-adventure kids in the same way that I've always treated them is I just don't like they found a way to make these 2 relevant here by going back to that original story in context. I don't see that there's a point in doing it again. They've done it.
Yeah, knowing what goes on with Daigo and Maki and what their stories are and having it completed, I'm not quite as convinced the story with the 5 original Chosen is necessarily all that appealing right now.
No. Yeah, they told the story.
At least as far as an official production. Go ahead and write your fanfic. I'll read it.
Yes.
And finally, this one's already answered, but we can kind of elaborate more possibly, is: do you think we'll have to wait until the Thanksgiving party to hear about the new anime? And at the very least, would be my answer.
Yes. I think it's... And I feel like this is also where we get into definitions of stuff, where, technically speaking, they haven't said a new anime's coming. I mean, it is. Yeah. It is an anime.
Yeah.
But technically speaking, they said project. I mean, it is a new anime, and I would almost be willing to step out on the ledge and go, it's Adventure 4. Because, that's what it is, right? I mean,
I feel like it. Yeah, it's
like I won't say
there would be a lot of people really unhappy if it's not.
Yeah. Like here's the thing: are we 100% sure? No. Yeah. Are we reasonably sure enough that we're both? Neither one of us who really takes crazy leaps. I think we'd both take that leap in a second.
This is the logical assumption.
Yes, it's one of those things where it's either Adventure 4 or insert guess here.
We'll say this much: don't expect a whole ton of details before Thanksgiving party. Yes. Whether or not it will be at Thanksgiving party, cross your fingers. But
unless they decide to be weird and throw in something in the Blu-ray packaging, for example.
Or some sort of just another screenshot, or I should say a promo card.
Yeah,
they're not doing screen. It won't be a screenshot, obviously. Just some sort of another promotional image.
Yeah,
we had like. We had like 2 or 3 of those before we before we even found out the title was going to be Try.
I think the first promotional image actually said Digimon Adventure Try on it.
And if it did, it didn't say anything else.
The earliest ones were just using that blue outline of Adventure Taiichi Yamato with the old logo, and the adventure will soon evolve again, or whatever it's.
Or Taichi, 17 years old, high school student now. That's it.
Any more questions?
That's all I was going to get to. I got to get going pretty soon.
Okay, we may come back to some of these next time. Then I assume you have them written down somewhere?
I can save the one that is... I can save the one we really wanted to keep.
Yeah.
Like the one about the new original anime, I think, is definitely worth circling back to. I said new original anime, and as much as we want a V-Tamer anime, that's technically not a new original.
They could make
anime.
it new and original. Use Ultra S instead of Omegamon.
The question as it was written, I summarized.
Hey, it said new and
if Digimon made a new original anime, and then in parentheses, not a sequel or adaptation.
Oh, well, you didn't say that when you read the question.
I didn't think it was important, but you got a lawyery on me.
Hey, how often do I bring up fucking V-Tamer? I bring it up enough that you should have said it. That's about it for now. We will be. I mean, like, I feel like next time we have to go. So, what do we think of Try overall and so forth? To a degree.
Honestly, I think
we kind of covered it.
Next time, I think we should talk about the movie 5 dub.
Yes. Well, yeah, we're gonna talk about that, but that kind of leaves May out of it.
Yeah. At some point, I would rather give it a little bit of time before we answer the how is Try overall.
No, that's perfect.
Like, I want to let this.
No, that's fine.
Sit a little bit. I think maybe it might be a question to come back to maybe when it's out completely in the dub, like in September or so.
I believe we're not gonna be back for like what, 3 weeks?
3 weeks. I've got in 2 weeks I've got ASEN Anime Central in Chicago. My Digimon panel is 4:15 p.m. on Saturday for those who are close enough to Chicago where they can make the trip. There are 2 other Digimon panels that I'm sure will also be worth checking out. So
and then,
a lot of Digimon on the schedule at ASEN this year. So
and then exciting. After I get this out, I'm out of town helping someone move for a few days, so no news.
Mm-hmm.
Which it seems like perfect timing to duck out from the news. Also, there will be
for sure. Also to be completely self-serving, if anyone is interested in the fan fiction I write, I am posting a new teaser for my new story next week. So you got that to look forward to. You can follow me on Twitter for those details.
Yeah, everyone knows the normal spiel: like, subscribe us on YouTube, join Patreon, throw money at AR's coffee. Mm-hmm. Review us on iTunes because that actually does help. Follow us all on Twitter.
Driving half the country with a baby in a few weeks, so definitely a little extra spending money would be nice.
Yes, I'm helping my brother move basically 2 months before he has a baby. So that's not fun. Helping people move is never fun. You're just obligated to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's about it. You can find May at Translationmon on Twitter. Listen to her podcast also.
Which just came out for her Try review. So.
Literally after the show started, but before it was live.
Gotta beat us to the punch.
Yep. We will catch you guys all next time in a few weeks where, well, me and AR will definitely be talking about Try Part 5's dub. And we forgot to mention one small quick thing about it. They've changed the extra yet again. Now they're saying it's catch-up for parts 1 through 4.
Well, it's any good as the catch-up for parts 1 through 3. I'll take it.
Yep. But they keep changing it, like... There's been like 4 or 5 things listed. I think that's about it for us, though, this time. But we will be talking about that next time. Anything else left to say, AR?
Follow my blog, Digimon.firstagent.net. I'll be posting every Monday and Thursday for the next few weeks the review of each episode of Part 6, and concluding with the dub review of Part 5.
And join us on Discord to argue with us.
Absolutely.
We will catch you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.